Hi, Chef Mark Olson here. We're going to demonstrate on how to eighth cut a chicken. We're going to separate it into 2 wings, 2 breasts, 2 thighs, and 2 legs. Similar to the spatchcock, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take off the wings, cutting right into the wing joint. So there's the first wing joint there, the second wing joint, and the third wing joint. In this application, we're actually going to cut these down a little bit further. Place that in for our stock, and that'll be our 2 wings. I'm going to place that in a pan of ice. Notice I have the pan over ice to keep them nice and cold. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove that fat, again, that's in the cavity. I just pull that out, place that in our stock bin, and then we're going to remove the legs and the thighs. I'm going to take the whole leg and whole thigh off first. Once it's off the bird, then I'll separate that into separate pieces. So all I do is cut right between where the thigh meets the body of the chicken, and I open that up. Without using my knife, I place my hand underneath the chicken and I pry it up until the bone disjoints itself from the carcass of the chicken. Once I have that done, then I lay the chicken flat on the opposite side. I take my chef's knife and I cut parallel to the chicken until I get to the chicken joint. Once I get to the chicken's joint right here, I'll turn my knife 90 degrees and use it to apply pressure so I can pull the rest of it off. So I've cut down to the joint, I stop with my knife, I use it as a pivot point, and I pull off. The reason I do that is it removes all the meat from the oyster right here in the chicken. You can see I left very little meat on the carcass. I'll place that over here and I'll do the same thing on the opposite side. So again, I just make a small slice between where the thigh meets the chicken carcass. I split it open with my hand. I place my hand underneath the thigh and disjoint it by just popping it open. I don't need to cut it open at this point yet. I lay the chicken on its side, and again I use a parallel cut with the knife. I make sure that my knife is parallel to the chicken's carcass. As soon as I get to the joint, I place my knife 90 degrees. I grab the entire leg and thigh. I place my knife here and I pull it out. Pulls all the meat out. To take the chicken breast off of the chicken, this is going to be a boneless chicken breast. I find where the keel or the sternum is to the chicken, and it's right down the center of the chicken, and I'm going to fillet off using a boning knife both of the chicken breasts. But what I want to do is do minimal cutting and more pulling to ensure that I get as much meat off the carcass as possible. So I find that bone. I'm going to work on the left side first. I cut down till I feel bone. When I feel the bone, I go down to where the wishbone is in the chicken, which is right about there. Once I hit the wishbone, I turn my knife about 40 degrees and I cut down on an angle to disjoint this from the carcass. So I cut straight down and it goes to the joint and it disjoints the wing and the breast from the rest of the chicken. I release a little bit more meat. When I'm just about done, I just grab it and pull, and all the meat will come off for the chicken breast, leaving the wing on. On this one, I do the same thing. I find the opposite side of the sternum or the keel. I cut down. Again, when I get to the wishbone, which is right here, I turn my knife about 40 degrees and I angle it right down to take off, to disjoint that wing from the carcass. Once I release the tenderloin, I grab all the chicken and I pull it away from the head of the chicken and all the meat will come off. You'll find that that removes the majority of the chicken meat from the carcass. We can obviously save this carcass for stock. That goes into our stock bin. Now, if we want to, we can then remove the wing from the chicken breast. In this case, we're going to leave the wing on, but if I wanted to, I would just fillet my knife right here. I would get under the bone, cut it off, and I would have a small drummy to go along with the second joint of the wing right there. Let's go back to the leg and the thigh. So to separate the leg from the thigh, we're going to find where the line of fat separates it, which is right here. you can see this line of fat. That line of fat indicates where the joint is for the leg and the thigh. So if I cut down right on that line of fat, it goes right through that joint. If I'm off that line of fat, let's just say I'm over here, I'm going to be cutting on the bone and I can't go through. So what you're going to feel is a couple of little ridges, and when you find the indentation on that fat line, that's where the joint is to go through there. I'll do it again on this one. You'll see right here is the line of fat which separates the thigh from the leg. I can feel in there, right there, similar to your elbow. It's where the elbow and the bicep meets, or the top part of your arm meets. I put the knife right on it, cut straight through. There shouldn't be much resistance at all. It should just pop right apart, and that's your leg and your thigh. So if you look in here in the pan, we're going to have 2 legs, we have 2 breasts, 2 thighs, and I separated these wings into 2 different parts. You could leave these whole, or you could leave the wing on here, peel all of the meat off, like this, which would create an airline breast. An airline breast is a boneless chicken breast with the wing on, cleaned of all meat and skin and joint. So we can take that off. We could clean that as much as we want. You'll see that some of them are perfectly clean, some of them will actually cut that joint right off, producing kind of a cleaner look. So that's the Black Hawk Technical College 8th cut chicken. Good?